welcome to this special episode of
But
Out
you
on
say
a Limb
they're special
podcast.
every time.
I do, but this one's super special. You know why?
Super special.
Super
Do y'all
special.
know why? Because it's Valentine's Day, but not only because it's Valentine's Day, that's why I'm wearing red,
That's right.
but it is our 1 year anniversary.
That's right.
It is our 53rd.
We did it.
That's
We
right.
did it.
53rd episode, but there are only 52 weeks in a year. And I
That's
know
right.
that. And the reason it's our 53rd is because early on, we weren't sure if we were going to do some
Shorts.
we were going to do some shorts midweek.
Mhm.
And so we did a discernment short. So that added one. That's why we're
But
on our
that
53rd.
wasn't really an episode.
No,
that
it
was a
was-
short.
Right.
It was.
But in total, when you're looking at all the videos,
But-
there's still be 53
okay.
videos.
So we're on
That's
episode
confusing.
53. We've been at it a whole year. Thank you to all of you guys who have been with us. A lot of you for the whole time. We
Golf
love that. And yay, we're just excited. We've had even more fun, I think, than we anticipated, don't you think?
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was a good idea. Who thought of it?
really
I don't
you
know.
Did. You did. We had
That was a
talked about
good
it.
We
idea.
had
We had
the
talked about it,
persistence of Samantha.
but once you brought it up,
Well,
we were
because of my undying curiosity,
Right.
the questions would not stop.
yeah.
And so it just made sense that
Well-
everybody should hear what I was asking.
Yeah, and I mean, we toyed with that idea right from the beginning when we opened up the treehouse. We're like, we really should have some sort of
Mhm.
podcast, some sort of something, just to sit and chat.
But you were
But-
waiting for me.
I guess so.
Yes, the universe said, hold on a minute, table that idea. There's going to be somebody
Right.
coming around and from that first interaction, and then going to get coffee, coming up to get answers to questions, all this stuff.
Mhm.
You're like, hey, let's do this thing. And so
Well,
here we are.
Because the rapport,
That's right. The rapport. The rapport.
we were joking.
Chemistry.
Yeah,
The
we were
word is
joking
chem-
around about rapport versus chemistry. The chemistry between the three of us,
Mhm.
with Allison not using any of her intuitive abilities. And so, no, I'm kidding. Like not thinking she had them and all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, I've been doing this all along.
That's
Come
right.
on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And Will and I both kind of paralleling in many respects, but not because the stuff he does is just like way out there. So freaking cool. And while mine's cool, mine's
Yours
varied.
is.
Um,
Everybody, that's the thing. Everybody has a unique way of doing it. There isn't
Right.
one,
that are perfect for them.
right.
Yeah.
One hole
So
to shove everything into.
But there's a lot of parallels that you and I have where we're just kind of like squirrel.
Mhm.
And Allison, if she was not here, keeping us
I
on
rein y'all
target.
in.
Right. We need a ringleader, and that's Allison for sure.
Yes.
And then
yes.
I break them up from like bickering. all the
True.
time. Yeah, you guys
I mean,
know,
after
you know.
30 some years, you can't expect us to.
Hey, it's a road.
Yeah. So, but Samantha, her laughter is what changes the energy of our set.
You think
That's right.
so?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Really?
You just have
You
a
have
way
that
of making
spontaneous
us
laugh.
crack up.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
do.
always thought it was so obnoxious. My kids just look at me and just like make fun of me all the
No,
time.
you're
but
just joyful. And so it's fun.
Okay.
It's always fun.
every
But,
day is freaking Christmas for me.
That's right.
However, in spite of that,
Uh-huh.
you are a bit OCD in that
Are we talking the hair?
when we started the podcast, she did not want my yellow. I have a yellow legal.
No,
I
that
have a
is
yellow
bothering
legal
me.
pad, right? Shh, wait, let me explain. I have a yellow legal pad that I use at work and at home. I love yellow.
They're all
legal
over the
pads,
house.
right? And so I was taking notes and things, and I was
So
going to
not
have
feng shui.
it here, but
Uh-huh.
she said the yellow is not going to work, so I don't use yellow. We created instead an episode page, which is professional. Thank you. It is.
Right.
Yes, and Will needs it when he's like doing his
It
stuff.
is
and-
good. So that was smart. But today I have a piece of yellow paper because I took some notes at the house and I didn't want to rewrite my notes. And when the viewers hear why I took notes, they'll be happy.
That's
Yes,
right.
but viewers, I want to see in the comments below how many people think that this is garish, that it's not Zen, it is not feng shui. To suddenly see this yellow, it's much like the lip of that. Look at that.
See, no. Then she said she wasn't OCD, but when I said I wanted to have matching coffee cups,
Oh, we're
like they
getting
do on the
somewhere.
news shows and stuff, she was like, "Oh no, oh no."
Well, no, because that would be contrived.
Okay, here we go.
SAT word.
Anyway,
Quick for Samantha.
the reason I have my yellow piece of paper today only,
Today
is
only.
because in light of our 1 year anniversary,
That's right.
we are going to offer a special for all of you all.
All of our
And
viewers.
anybody else who watches within the next week, for 1 week, starting today, February 14th, Valentine's Day,
And 1 week only.
through
Okay.
midnight on the 20th, Will and I are going to offer our 60-minute channeling session, which is normally $199. We're going to offer it to you all for $175. So all you have to do, if you want to take advantage of that, is go into the show notes. There is a payment link for that discount. Click on that, and I receive a notice that you paid, and then I will reach out to you via email to schedule. Now, keep in mind, we have been really booked up, which is a good thing, really
Yes.
booked up. So it might be several weeks before I can fit you in, but I'm going to fit you in. And the majority of our sessions take place at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We can go a little bit later than that,
Mhm.
or on a weekend, more Saturday morning, typically
Mhm.
at 9 a.m. Eastern time for those who are overseas or in Australia or
Yep.
different things like that.
Yep.
So if those times generally aren't going to work for you, then think about whether you want to schedule. But if those times in general work for you,
We'll work with
I mean,
you.
I don't want to have to refund a bunch of money if people were like, oh, I work every single night and I can't do
She
it at
really
night,"
thought this through. Okay.
right?
She did.
Right.
Yeah.
She did.
And for me,
All right.
you done here?
So yes,
I'm gonna
wait,
say,
get rid of that piece of paper. Okay, now our set is clean.
now
And
the
Samantha,
set is clean.
Samantha
Right.
has a
Um,
deal too.
Yeah. So my deal is somewhat similar. It's $1 better.
$1 better.
I
I see your dollar. I'm gonna.
It's not poker here.
anyway, it's just easier to make it $25 off. The code is down below. I'm not going to do a link because there's so many different things that you could choose.
Mhm.
Time, way, place, whatever, that just you can grab the code, use it within the week, schedule your appointment. You can schedule it whenever there's an available time, and we're good to go.
Yep.
See, a lot simpler.
It
It
is.
is.
It is. We don't schedule off of our website because
We have a hard,
Okay, but
That's
there's a
difficult.
method to my madness, and I'm going to share that madness with you guys. Because not like I haven't already, but because of my like ADD attitude about things, we tend to be procrastinators,
Mhm.
and we tend to like if somebody says, "Hey, let's make an appointment to do this," I start
Right.
going, "Oh my God, my whole day's shot." Like it'll be
yeah.
something in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden I feel like I can't do anything
that.
else.
Yeah.
Who was just saying that? Our friend from the Origin Story group.
Christina?
I don't know
Or-
if she wants her name shouted out, so
sorry.
I'll just use, no, it's not Christina, but her initial begins with S.
Okay. Oh,
You'll
okay.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said the same exact thing, that if you have ADHD
It's a
and you have
concept.
oh my God, I had never heard it till she just said it. She just said it yesterday. I think.
Yeah. No, it's
So,
it's
isn't
a
that
thing. It's a
wild?
thing.
well, it works two ways for me. And I want you guys to understand this because there's going to be some people that relate to it because it's actually a really cool thing. So, I put out there when I'm willing to meet with people,
Mhm.
which I'm very flexible. And if there's not a time that works, I'm
Yep.
always good with people sending me a direct message saying, "Hey, is there another time available?" But what happens is I don't have to think twice about it. I just look at it and there's an appointment.
Yeah.
So I don't have any of
Yeah.
the whinging, any of the
Yep.
procrastinating. It's just done. And so there's no split energy. There's no,
Somebody already set your schedule for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I go into it so smoothly and
That's
I love
great.
it. The other thing is, I have this whole law of attraction thing where I say, people pay me because they enjoy my company.
Mhm.
And money just comes out of nowhere. And, I can be doing whatever and money just suddenly flows to me. And, this is how I live my life. And so it's really fun to be out to lunch and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
look,
yes.
Yeah.
there's money, So it's
Same
like,
thing.
it's a whole,
Yeah.
if you're in a position where you can set your life up to that sort of thing, it's actually
Yep.
really conducive and there's more of a universal like flow of
Mhm.
energy with
Mhm.
it.
It's kind of like a video game reward system. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get this little reward, and you're like, "Wait a minute."
Coins.
Yeah. No,
Ding.
we get it too on ours.
I've gamified my life is what you're
Pretty
saying.
much. Pretty much.
Wait, whatever. All right.
It
So you
works.
guys take advantage of
Like
that.
a rat
You
in a
have
maze.
1 week to pay for a session, and you have
Yep.
weeks after that to use it, as long as you're scheduling. But I also wanted to take a moment to give some shout outs because we have some awesome viewers. Some listen, some watch. And they've been with us a long time. And a lot of them are kind enough to offer feedback and comments and
Yes,
things.
for sure.
And we so appreciate that. So I want to give a couple of shout outs. Shout out to what?
I'm just looking at this list.
To John K in Cali. He is a new, yeah, I know,
Oh, okay.
I know.
I didn't see it there.
because you
I'm-
missed last week.
I'm,
I'll explain.
oh,
that to you later.
okay. I'm looking at her notes.
She didn't miss the podcast. She missed a class, and that's an inside joke, and I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
Anyway, John K from Cali, just out of the blue, purchased 4 books. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh,
One
yeah,
of-
he's
one
going to
of
love
each.
reading them.
Yes.
Oh God,
For
yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Yes, he
For
is. And is a new viewer, he said. So welcome.
Welcome.
But we also have some long-term, some veteran
Yes.
watchers and viewers and listeners. I want to give a shout out to Marie S. from Minnesota, because you're a faithful viewer. Thank you. And you always give such kind and uplifting feedback. You really do. And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
She watches my other podcast as well
Aw.
and is part of the Kiss podcast
Awesome.
group. Like she's just
Awesome.
Marie, you're fantastic. Like
Yes.
She
I
is.
love the give and take and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you're a wonderful person.
You warm our heart.
Yes.
Same thing with Catherine V. You always give supportive comments that really warm our hearts, and we appreciate you. Thank you. And then there's a couple of people who are constantly giving feedback of some kind.
Mhm.
Ghetto Mendez.
Mhm.
I don't think that's your real name, so I'm hoping I didn't call you out. Diane M, Melanie M, Mrs. Flipside, or Ms. rather, for your frequent and thoughtful, insightful comments. We really, really appreciate that.
For sure.
And all my lovely peeps from the Origin Story book study. You all know who you are.
I'm one of them.
And a lot of you guys, there's a lot of you, and there's so many that I don't
Yeah.
want to leave anybody out.
Yep.
But we appreciate all of your consistent comments
Yep.
as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
shout out to all of you guys. We
So
appreciate
we're done.
you. We
Yep.
appreciate
See you later. Bye.
So this episode is called the Anniversary Stream of Consciousness, because we don't have
As you see, we just have a stream consciousness.
we don't have a set agenda today. We're going to talk about what's on our mind, and hopefully you'll be enjoying the ride.
Well, that's
Come
gonna be a
along-
short conversation for me then.
Come
Good
along
grief.
for the ride.
I don't have much on my mind.
We
So-
talk about third eye energy and how it
Right.
poofs up your hair.
So before we started, we got into a little discussion about what we're reading. And I said, do we want to do a podcast on what we're reading? And you said,
That my daughter, in order
oh,
to
blame your
relate
daughter
to
now.
her.
You're blaming your daughter.
No,
now.
because I wouldn't have come across these
I'm
books.
just kidding. I know,
Okay.
right?
And the thing is, the author of these books is actually like she's insanely. She puts George R. Martin, the guy,
Don't know who that
the
is.
guy who did Game of Thrones, to shame. Like her vision of the world is so insane. It is
And
so
what did
cool.
you call them? What's the title of them?
They're called romanticises.
Romantic.
A romantic fantasy. And
I'm not going to stop the video. This is just a technical thing. We're on a stream of consciousness, so everybody will understand.
Okay.
okay, so I can keep going.
You can keep going.
Okay.
I just realized that we need to shift the camera just a tad.
Oh,
Because she gets
there-
pushing herself out.
Am I
When she
pushing
does like
myself
this,
out?
when you look over here, you,
Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys got to see the fullness of this. Okay.
that's Samantha.
So in these romanticises, it's really cool because a lot of it has to do with mythology, and fays, and there's some vampires, and there's some dragons. It's like all over the place. Except she's really pulling from this concentrated consciousness that we all agree are certain threads of what reality would be if there were fays, if there were dragons. And it makes there must be truth in it somewhere along the line, or we wouldn't have all of this commonality and stuff. And
So there are Terra beings, fairies, and
yes.
dragons and things like that, which are
Mhm.
really neat. And we probably should do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. And the thing is, she's not like making it goofy or anything like that. Like she's taking it like very real and like,
Right.
okay, if you're a fae, you're actually kind of beastly and very animalistic.
Yeah.
And, so she's leaning into the fullness of what these characters would be like, which is really brutal. Like I just finished reading this, they call it a tandem read of the the second and third to the last books of this 9-book series.
Good Lord.
And by the end of it, I was literally in tears because she's so direct and brutal in her writing. She
Wow.
doesn't make it Hollywood. And,
Yeah.
but the other really cool thing about her is she's one of those authors who has focused on the strength of women, that we're not just secondary, that, that there's a
So
lot.
the warrior, the divine feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you
And-
say she's?
Did you say the author's name? Did I miss it?
Sarah J. Maas, Maas. And if anyone goes like on TikTok or Instagram,
Dun, dun, dun.
Right.
yeah,
right.
everyone knows that's an on-running joke with us.
Yeah.
That people have recreated scenes of these books.
Oh,
Like they
really?
just,
Ah.
some of it's
Kinda
kind of
do-
fun,
Kinda
some
do
of
the
it's serious.
AI type of thing.
No,
or-
like cosplay
oh,
and
really?
stuff.
Cosplay stuff.
Oh,
too.
Lord.
Or have done their own artistic renderings
yeah.
of these characters.
Wow.
It is the most people talk about being a Swiftie, Taylor Swift fan. Like people are Sarah J. Maas universe fan.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I get goosebumps when I talk about her because I'm glad my daughter introduced me to this, because there is so much that we need of this recognizing and appreciating the differences in all of us. It's just that it's not, just color skin or this or your belief or whatever. It gets into, where you come from, but it's still all the family and relationships kind of whatever.
Would you say a couple things I was going to ask. So one, she's obviously tapped into something while she's in that stream of consciousness to bring that writing through.
Yeah. And she started at like 15 or 16.
Wow.
She started writing. I think she produced her first book at
Wow.
16.
Well, I
And
think
then-
a lot of kids that age, by the way, sorry to interrupt
No,
you, but I
that's
think
fine.
a lot of kids that age do tap into that stuff, and it's not accepted in normal society often.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Like the teachers frown upon it, or their parents might frown upon that stuff. And so their outlet is not
Well, and the
as
thing,
robust.
it's not like just, okay, here's this story that takes place. Like she has these maps she has to map it because
Wow.
they take place on different continents. Here's the cool thing, in different universes, like, or how do you say dimensions?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And some of the dimensions are starting to collide. Like if you read the books, you're like, oh, wait a second. Like once you start reading enough, you recognize, was this the origin to this book or this? Because she sets them, one of them is set into like more of a modern world. There's cell
Wow.
phones, there's things like that. And you're kind of going, okay, so how would they, and they have a lot of the archaic and old mixed with cell phones and technology and all this stuff, going to bars, raves, and this kind of stuff. And then, and then you can go back to like the old way where of course they're on horseback, or maybe
Yeah, yeah.
they're on dragons or whatever.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, it's fascinating.
The mythology side of things, does she then do some research then and pull in some of the
Like the archetype
understandings, the
stuff,
archetypes
or-
and
Oh
all
yeah.
that stuff?
Oh yeah. I mean, she's like,
So she's fully vested in the understanding to make sure that the character she develops.
yes, to stay
holds-
true to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And,
Cool.
but the thing is, like, she takes that and then like, it's kind of like when you take yeast and it blossoms or whatever, it's like she takes this kernel and
nugget.
then blows it up into, okay, well, how would this person function? How would you take,
But this is what you're supposed to do with correct character development.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't write fiction, because
It's-
it's
it's a
challenging.
lot.
It is a lot.
So
yeah.
she's got, and she will have all of these stories, like even in this 9-book arc, there are like 3 or 4 different areas that have these characters doing things. And I mean, like they will intermingle,
yeah.
like, it's just,
That's wild.
it's so freaking crazy. And so to see someone capable of that spatial
Mhm.
positioning because you can't, like, to try to write all of that out is very challenging. And so for her to hold that space and be able to go, okay,
And have the
Here's-
continuity to be able to
right.
continue that
mhm.
book after book after book or whatever. Yeah.
So I'm
Wow.
actually singing the praises. If you're not into the smut aspect of it, her first series, that what is it, Tower of Glass series or whatever, is the 9-book arc, and that I think was her original book series. And so it's just kind of, it's more about the
Yeah.
action and the motivations and and the character development and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the other books start getting a bit more into
The
like
romance.
this one
This is
woman
not that show.
yeah, this one woman on TikTok, she said, you know, how modern day women would react if a man actually said some of the stuff that they would say in the novel. And it's just like she would read it and just bust out laughing because of, you know, you'd sit
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
go, oh, hell no. It's just like, it's so funny.
That's
But
cool.
anyway, I love that whole,
Yeah.
just everything about it, you know, how she does the arc, how she envisions it, how she stays true to it. I feel like it's deepened my understanding and appreciation because the thing is, you know, a lot of us sit there and go, well, there's no fairies, there's no dragons or wyverns or whatever.
Mhm.
And the fact is, this stuff came from somewhere because, and if you look back in, what is it? Not the dark ages before
Well,
that.
yeah.
In
And
tapestries, you
specifically
see
in-
unicorns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in Europe,
Yeah.
especially in Europe.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
something had to exist
Yeah.
for all this to come about. And we know
Right.
about like Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So,
Sure.
Right. Well,
anyway.
good. Thank you. And it helps you bond with your daughter. And that's always good.
Yep, that's a key aspect.
Right. So we
Meet
were
your kids where they live.
right.
right. Well, what was the book that I read of? Oh, Evan. When Evan was in high school,
Martian.
he read The Martian,
Oh,
which was
yeah.
a really good movie with my favorite guy. And
Damon.
Damon, thank you.
Matt
His name.
Damon.
Yes, I love Matt Damon. Why his name is escaping me, I don't know. But
Women of a
Anywho,
certain age.
But the book, like always, the book was better, I think. Well, so anyway, I told Evan, I want to read it because I wanted to have a common thread of discussion
Yeah.
with my high schooler. So I opened the book and the first word is fuck. Are we allowed to say that on YouTube?
Yes.
Well, we
Okay.
are.
Well,
We just did. So
You might, I don't know if you have to.
nope.
nope.
Anyway, I thought, well, no wonder my teenage son likes this book. The first word is the F
Yeah.
word, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't faze me because I was in the army.
But if you were suddenly on Mars, you'd kind of be. fine with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly. But that was a really good book. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I love that whole concept. Now, see, with my son, it's a little bit different because the other night we just realized that there was a whole other season that came out of Little Dicky.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
He's a rapper, and it is to watch this with your son. Like it's a rapper, but he's doing like he's a Jewish rapper, and
Yeah.
he has this. So he came out with this show, this series, and like he's like living his life, but it's also part of his music.
Yeah.
And it's so incredibly intensely awkward and uncomfortable and how he creates these characters and what they talk about
Yeah.
and just like, and yet it's wonderful to blend yourself into that. And again, it's acceptance.
Whatever your cup of tea is. Doesn't
Yes.
sound like mine, but
Be human.
hey,
That's
Be
right.
human.
They be human.
Uh-huh.
which reminds me, what's that rapper Jelly? What's his name?
Jelly roll.
Jelly Roll. I just discovered Jelly Roll. Have you ever heard of him?
I have,
So
but
he's
I
kind
didn't
of
know that
like-
was a serious
Well,
thing.
I don't know.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
can-
no,
I
it's
don't think
very
you'd call him a rapper, but I guess he used to call himself a rapper. I don't know. But now he's kind of like a country singer. He's a
Yeah.
country singer.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just, I guess he was presenting in front of Congress about not doing drugs and all of this sort of stuff,
Mhm.
wholesome stuff, because he turned his life around.
Right.
But his music, the one about I Need a Favor is the new one. I love that song. I'm like obsessed with him.
Listen to it.
And
And,
so,
and I just came on
Mhm.
TikTok.
Mhm.
Uh,
We have to say it like it's under our, like,
Right.
so she doesn't like,
she
Give us,
refuses.
you know,
I refuse.
all we
refuses.
hear is Miss Othmar.
Right. But I just saw I can't think of the actual name. I can pull it up on my phone, but the Ultimate Human. He's the doctor that I've been listening to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Huberman, right?
No,
I know who you're talking about.
Not Huberman?
I'll pull it up. Sorry.
That would be the ultimate Huberman.
The Ultimate Human. Oh, are you talking about the medical dude?
Yeah.
Gives you medical advice?
He's really good.
Huberman's good too, if you haven't discovered him.
Gary Becca.
Yeah.
Gary Becca.
Brecca.
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 Sorry,
Yeah.
Gary Brecca. Apparently, I just saw an episode where I guess either Jelly Roll reached out to him or
I was wondering
Either
how
one-
you were going to segue the
Right.
jelly roll piece, but
no, he's taking him under his
Stream of
wing to
consciousness.
lose 200
jelly roll wants to lose.
150 or 250 pounds in the next 30 to 60 days through his program.
Wow.
Really?
He's
Yes.
getting ready to do it. He's
Yes.
starting it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
At least that's what I just saw. So I don't know how relevant it is if maybe it's an older video, but I just saw
I
that.
have to take a look at that.
So
Yeah, but he's somebody who's really
He's
good
amazing.
to listen to.
Gary Brecca, he's on I got him on Spotify and he's very
I can't remember how I came across him, but I was
is
just
he the
like,
one
accident.
you're getting vitamin
Yeah.
advice about
Yeah.
supplements and all of
supplements
that?
Yeah,
and things
and-
like that.
he's like taking all the BS out of things
Yes.
and being really,
Very straightforward. Here's what
Mhm.
you need. Here's what you don't need.
you know
that
what I
kind of
just
thing.
learned was really interesting. This is not medical advice. We are not doctors.
Nope.
But this was really interesting was that, and I learned this from someone you're going to publish, and I looked
Oh.
it up. I was
Oh,
really fascinated by it
yeah.
because I was like, hell no, this can't be right. But okay, so I've done a deep dive into magnesium supplement,
Yep.
that and vitamin D.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you, like, magnesium is so essential for your body. It is
And there's so many of them.
yeah. This one is just amazing. And so like if you have leg cramps at night, if you're not sleeping well, but lots of other things. So anyway, in this book, she was talking about how statins really mess up your
Yes.
system.
Oh, yeah.
And they cause more problems
We're not
than
doctors.
they solve. Yeah.
We're not doctors.
And so what she was saying is that magnesium does the same thing as statins
There
for
are
the
other
most part.
things too. There are other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she referred to the NIH,
Mhm.
National Institute of Health, or
Yep.
it was
National Institute of Health.
so I thought, well, I'm going to look this up because, I
Yeah.
don't just like, whatever.
Take it
So
at
I
face
go and I
value.
look it up, and sure enough, there's a page on it.
Yep.
And right there, they talk about how good magnesium is in controlling this stuff. Now, some people, maybe they do need the statins
Everybody's
because,
body's different.
yeah,
Right.
Mhm.
but they're saying right there that this supplement pretty much resolves, the issues that people are using for statin.
And yet they won't start you on that.
Yeah,
Right.
they'll always start you on these,
Yep.
on the pharmaceuticals. So it's just, most doctors are not even, they're not trained for nutrition.
No,
Right.
no.
So they don't even know this stuff.
Yeah, and I just recently realized because I've got high cholesterol and borderline, whatever you want to call it, and I've
Yeah.
been I know. Anyway,
It's
it's a story.
barely borderline.
Yeah,
Right.
it's what
Yeah.
they decide.
but that's just my body makeup. But
Mhm.
I was taking a supplement, which is red rice
Yeast, yeah.
and it's called Google, which is a
GUGGL or
right
something.
something like that. It's a extract of myrrh, so they
Mhm.
blend it all together.
Isn't that Guggle? G-U-G-G-L.
I don't know
how you say, but
I-
that's how I say it.
Maybe.
Anyway, so I've been taking that for a very long time, and it does moderate my cholesterol decently.
Mhm.
Well, another good friend of ours that we've gotten to know over, he's a doctor that's into the holistic,
MD, but yeah,
right.
he's
He's gone
moved into the holistic
holistic
field, yeah.
and integrative work, and
Mhm.
he recommended that I start taking QCO10, which I hadn't-
CoQ10.
CoQ10.
I've been using that in the oil on my face.
Have you? Yeah, so
That's why I look so much.
there you
different.
go.
No,
That's
I'm
why
kidding.
that's why you glow.
I got a sample of vitamin C stuff from my.
Yeah.
I treated myself to a facial the other day, and they gave me vitamin C stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's
go
No,
ahead.
that's right.
Anyway,
Anyway, so I'm
we
taking
are
it.
listening
No,
and
that's fine.
interested in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he recommended that I stop that because
Mhm.
that actually contains a natural form of statin. He said, so if you start getting muscle cramps and you start getting all this stuff after taking the QCO10,
CoQ10.
I don't know how to say
Whatever,
it. Anyway, if you start getting cramps, muscle cramps, and it feels like, stop that. And sure enough, because it actually contains a natural derivative of
So when you started on
natural
the
statin.
CoQ10, that
Right.
stopped.
I had
The
to
other
stop
stuff.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's, okay, I'm going to say this.
By the way,
Again,
these
we're
are
not a
only
doctor.
these are only things to investigate. We're
Yeah.
just telling you what we've tried. Just investigate,
These
but
are
do your
just-
homework.
These are personal.
If
Yeah,
you are
yeah, yeah.
taking
Aspect of it.
statin and you have hip pain or you have back pain, you don't have to go advocate for yourself. Talk to your doctor. There's other
They
like
can move things around. Yeah,
pharmaceuticals that they
move
can
things
put you
around.
on.
Yep.
But always, always, always first ask, is there a natural route? Is
Mhm.
there some, because they're not going to,
At least to try first.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank God for Western medicine,
Oh yeah.
it gets in there and helps us quickly.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff that you can investigate.
What I'd
beforehand,
say is, and again, I'm not advocating for any aspect, but own health, personal health, take it upon your own. And that is exactly right. Take your own health into your own hands and ask the questions. Just don't go in and go, okay, I'll take all that. Start asking questions. It's your
Because
health.
there's no way
Yeah.
you're going to have no side effect. I mean, everything has a side effect.
Even natural stuff has side effects.
Right.
Even
Right.
natural stuff. does.
And if it screws your body up, you have no one else to blame but yourself. You're not a victim. So there you
Yeah.
go. Like it's
Okay, let's get real. Getting real with Samantha. That's a whole other podcast.
oh my God.
We told you it was going to be a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right.
So what now? We started off with books.
Right.
Well,
And
I didn't even get to, I talked about The Martian briefly, but I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about this book that I just finished called UFO of God by
Oh,
Chris Bledsoe.
yeah, I saw you post that somewhere and I'm going, what the-
Right.
Oh, no, was it someone else in our group that read
No,
it
I-
and mentioned it?
No,
I don't think anybody else
posted
knows.
it
If
because
Allison
some of
did.
the questions
Okay.
that I asked we did a private channeling last night, and I'll tell you about a little bit of that.
Last night
Oh, it's
being
based
the
off of-
21st of January. This is when this is recording, just so everybody knows.
No, it's Valentine's
Well,
Day.
it's being posted on Valentine's Day. Come on, people.
Yes, screw that one up.
We don't do these live.
Correct. They know that. We went over that.
Yeah.
They know. Anyway, there's a book called UFO of God, and it's so interesting because a friend of ours, I think she's in Chicago-ish area somewhere, and
Wait,
we're doing a
I don't remember. Where
we're doing
she's
a
from.
project with her about angels and channeling a lot of angel energy and things like that. But
Yep.
anyway, she tells me about this book that she read in the summer. And so I look at it. First of all, it has the word God in it, which I'm just kind of like, okay, what does this mean?
Her
because-
hackles go up.
You got to know.
Or hackles.
Her hackles go up.
And
Whatever a hackle is. I don't
and it's
know.
about his experience with UFOs and abductions and orbs and all of this sort of stuff. And it started back in 2007. 2007. Well, first of all, we talk to ETs all the time. So I'm not really interested in reading people's abduction experience per se, or
Yeah.
what orbs they've seen in the sky and things like that. It's just not interesting to me. But there was something about this particular book. And so I started to read it. Usually I give it a chapter to see if it's my cup of tea. And I started to read it. And the first thing that grabbed my attention is that Chris Bledsoe is from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so his sightings took place along the Cape Fear River in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm from Wilmington. We also have the Cape Fear
Oh,
River that
you're
runs
from
through
Wilmington.
Wilmington.
Okay.
And so it was really interesting to hear him talk about that. And then he would go to work. He worked construction. So he would go down to Carolina Beach and Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach and all of these different things in the story. So that grabbed my attention. And Diana Pasolka is a UNCW, University of North Carolina, Wilmington professor of religious studies. She just was on Rogan the other day. She was on Lex Friedman 3 years ago, but she
Okay.
and Chris meet at
You'll
the
see how
end.
this all ties together.
Yeah.
She and Chris meet at the end of the book because her investigation of religious studies, she's interested in how UFO sightings in the past, like priests or people in the Catholic Church have had sightings of Mother Mary, for example,
Yeah.
or they've seen stigmata or different things like that. And so she's trying to piece together the religious symbology and the religious meaning of these sightings.
Okay.
So she's been exploring and interested in UFO sightings and things like that. So she ended up meeting Chris.
And if I'm correct, because I haven't listened to the whole podcast, I've listened to the whole Rogan podcast with her on it, but you know a bit more about her. But she's not a staunch believer. She's more in the academic camp.
She might be now.
Okay.
I think she might be now, but she does come at it from an academic perspective.
Yes.
She wrote a book called American Cosmic, I think, where she
Mhm.
goes into all of those things.
Yeah.
Um,
She approaches it all from the academic side of things, trying to, I won't say necessarily debunk it,
no,
but
No,
trying
no,
to
no.
give clarity to things.
trying to understand it in a different
Yes.
way, saying,
Yeah.
okay, what these people saw might have been angels or saints or
Right.
Mother Mary or things
Oh,
like that,
interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
rather than saying, oh, they were UFOs, they were aliens, they were whatever.
And
Right.
there's a number of episodes of Ancient Aliens that do the same thing. They talk
Mhm.
about these Catholic or Christian aspects of paintings and different things where they
Mhm.
see like they'll have this what do they call? That was weird.
Yeah,
My
that was
water
your
bottle
water
just popped. Where they'll see a ring of fire, right?
Right,
and
right.
they or a wheel of fire, but
Right.
they can't quite, they don't know what it is, so they equate it to something that's in the Christian
in their
framework,
construct that
in
they
their
already
construct. So then it's got to
understand.
be
That makes
angels or it's
sense.
got to be something like that.
And so that's all she's
Yeah.
doing. She's taking all of these accounts throughout
Mhm.
history and what
Right.
they've written in
And not just
scripture.
Catholic aspects, right?
No.
All religious aspects. Yeah.
But she knows a lot about the Vatican and what's going on at the Vatican and what they know.
Yeah.
And she's gotten permission to be in there researching
Wouldn't
through their
that be
books,
interesting?
through their library. So she
Really?
has done that.
Wow.
And so she's an interesting character. When I watch her, I get a little bit frustrated with her lack of awareness of like that people are really channeling these beings and that people really understand all of this. I mean, that we already know what she's
Well,
trying to
gotta-
prove.
Okay,
Right,
that's you.
right.
It's not the people who are still figuring
The
it
one
out.
she's speaking to.
Yes.
Correct. So, but when I watch it, I just get kind of
So in
frustrated.
other
like,
words,
"Come
when we
on."
sent her the origin story, she'd be like, "What is this garbage?"
I don't know.
Yeah, it's doesn't sound.
That would
but-
go way over her
but
head.
But the work, it sounds like the work she's doing is, like we keep getting this information ascending, getting this information ascending, or
Oh, yeah, yeah,
awareness opening up or whatever.
So
And
she's evolving.
Yeah, and you've got to have
Mhm.
other people who are going through the same process,
Yes.
reaching out to the next
Yes.
group of
Oh,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all speaking to different niches and different
Mhm.
groups and
Yes.
things, and that's purposeful.
Yeah.
So we, as part of this group with the girl that introduced me to that book,
Mhm.
the angelic stuff, she wanted to talk to the Seraphim. So we did. And the energy of the Seraphim is not at all what you think it is. I'm not going to get into that here. And especially since it'll probably end up in a book and that's proprietary. But,
Right now, yeah.
but they did say, not to, like, we wanted to reach out to her because the information that we got in the Seraphim channeling was very pertinent to what she understands, and it would have been great for her to hear it.
Uh-huh.
So when I asked that, or it might have been Hathor too, I don't remember which of those two, because we did them in a couple of days, within a
Mhm.
couple of days, but not to reach out soon, that it needs to take its time. And that's what you're talking about. We need to allow those things to naturally play out. And if the intersection is supposed to be made, it will be made. Right.
Synchronicity.
Mhm.
But what's interesting in that is that Chris Bledsoe in subsequent, I don't think he didn't know this in 07 for sure. And he's had a ton of other sightings since then. And you can watch, his son has a podcast called Bledsoe Said So, which is really funny. I
I know,
love
right?
that.
Yeah.
I love that title.
Yeah.
But they get into a whole bunch of different topics, and they have interviewed the dad,
Mhm.
and they've also shared the dad's 2 regressions that he's had. So it gives a lot more context even than what's in the book.
Mhm.
And so what Chris Bledsoe has come to understand is that he sees a lady in several of his sightings in the book,
Mhm.
and he equated that to the divine mother. So you could call her Mother Mary or whatever, but he ends up knowing that her name is Hathor. And I thought, that's really interesting, because to me, Hathor is this Egyptian goddess. And Chris is very religious. And so for him to understand that this being is Hathor, well, what we're coming to understand through Chris's information and through our own information is that the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit of the
Mhm.
Trinity, is source, and it's divided into the masculine and feminine, and the feminine is that motherly God,
Mhm.
and it is
Mhm.
called it's called Hathor in the Egyptian construct, because
Mhm.
when the Egyptians recognized that energy, they labeled it Hathor. They called it Hathor,
Because
and they
humans label.
and they
Mhm.
depicted it that
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So it isn't so much that we're worshiping some Egyptian goddess.
Mhm.
It's about that's how they understood that energy.
Yeah, you have to take it within the
it's-
culture you're in.
right.
But it's it's this his in regression, and he comes up with this word Hathor. That was probably not even in his awareness.
Correct.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Before
I doubt it.
He,
I doubt it.
He
Yeah.
probably hadn't studied Egyptian
Oh no.
mythology,
Right.
Egyptian studies, or any of that to understand
I
what
didn't know who Hathor was until recently.
Right.
It's like,
Mhm.
But that's very
It's-
similar
yeah.
to my experience in train. I didn't know who Enoch was. Never heard of Enoch.
Right.
Didn't understand what Enoch. But that's who pronounced himself. That's who came through.
And so it gives it more
yeah,
legitimacy.
right.
mhm.
But that was super interesting,
Interesting.
right? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention about this channeling, and like Will said, the channeling was in January. So this was the reason I asked this question. I said, where are we on this timeline? Remember, we've talked about the timeline that was supposed to go from June to June.
Mhm.
And we heard this from the Pleiadians and others. And then it got pushed to about September of 2024 because of things happening in the Middle East. And it was supposed to peak in chaos in
January.
January-ish, around the turn of the new year. But we're like looking at each other going, what? I mean, there's some unrest, surely.
At least that's how we're
but,
seeing it.
But
yeah.
it doesn't seem
But remember, I did get that
overly
message.
chaotic.
I did get that message
Remind me.
about 20, what was it? 20, February 24.
Mhm.
Mm.
Remember? And then they said, it was 2/24
Oh, right.
and June 23/24. which
And we don't know what that
we don't
means
know
yet.
what that means. And then there was something else they said, and I'm not going to repeat it because it's just too freaky and nobody needs to be upset.
It isn't anything to be fearful about.
Yeah, but it's not, it was kind of like, what does this mean? And so since I
What
can't
the
place it
hell?
anywhere,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be repeated.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so all the time you guys keep saying January, and I know that that's what's coming through. I keep going, what's happening in February? Something's happening in February. I don't know what.
I think
but-
pretty much every dang month this year, something's going to be happening.
Something's gonna
well,
be
and
popping
like
off.
I said, okay, I've now said this to two people, so I'm going to just say it here to all these people. Is that okay? I'm not getting political. This is not political. This is just talking about how crazy the world's getting. Okay,
Mhm.
that's all this is about. This was just a slice of it that I thought was fascinating. I don't watch the news or anything, and I just happened to turn the TV on, and I'm like, what's going on in the world? And it's really kind of nothing. But I mean, for me,
Right.
it just sounds like
Same
the
old,
same
same old.
stuff
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
had I listened to, like it's
Different
just,
rapper.
yeah.
Well,
and the
Not music rapper,
Yeah,
but
not jelly
candy,
roll.
candy rapper.
Candy.
Okay. So it's so funny.
Right.
Like, anyway, so okay, take the New Hampshire primary. Like fascinating, because my understanding from what I saw in the news, I don't know how correct this is, was that for some reason there was a technicality that Joe Biden wasn't even on the
Yeah.
New Hampshire primary.
And-
People had to write him in.
Yeah.
And they
But
wrote
he
him
wasn't-
in.
He wasn't running against anybody.
Yeah.
That's one
Okay. So first he wasn't on, they had to write him in. He won writing in,
Yeah.
and there was nobody running against him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Okay. I thought we had a system where we like take all these people and we weed it down, So anyway, I was like, okay. And then the other thing was that Trump won.
hmm
And Nikki Haley's basically like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
But she didn't say that.
Well, everyone's kind of, yeah.
She was saying,
Forecast.
I'm looking forward to South Carolina.
If you just
She
look,
has to. She has money invested in South
if
Carolina.
you just look
It's the
at,
next
if you just
thing.
look at the numbers, you would think, oh yeah, she's out. But if you start listening,
yeah,
Anyway,
no, she's,
it's not political.
but-
It's just weird.
but
just
yeah, it's
weird.
just like, this is unprecedented that
Everything is
we're
unprecedented.
setting this up for another freaking showdown. And like, and Nikki Haley, in many respects, like she needs to keep talking. She needs to keep, because there's real freaking issues there. And I'm not saying I'm for one person or
Right.
another.
right.
It's just that
we need to hear
people,
everything.
we need
Yeah, we need
people
to-
freaking talking,
That's
and
right.
nobody's
Hear everything.
talking yet.
Nobody.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, it just, how weird and twisted all of this is going to get with all of the
Oh,
different
goodness.
things. Like,
oh goodness, yeah.
so
It's unprecedented. It's like we're in
Everything is-
uncharted water. We're
Right,
just, we're, it's like,
But in spite of that, we feel relatively okay.
Yeah.
It's like being in a soap opera where you could miss the soap opera for 10 years and you drop in and it's the same characters doing the same stupid stuff.
different names of characters,
Same
but the
thing
same
with
thing. Yeah.
this whole
Okay.
governmental stuff, in my view.
Uh,
So it doesn't even,
I got a real interesting POV.
but wait, because I want to
Okay.
finish the
Okay.
timeline thing and then we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah. It's,
So anyway, I was asking them, I said, are we on the timeline? Because I haven't seen anything like super chaotic other than the normal shenanigans.
Yeah.
Where's this big thing that was supposed to happen in January? And they said, it is happening.
oh, yeah. That's
It just so happens your vibration, and we've talked about this before, if you raise your vibration and you stay there, then all of that stuff, if
All
you
the
get out
minutia.
of fear and you don't look at it, unless you choose to look at it, just
Mhm.
ignore, we know about ignoring and sticking your head in the sand. We're not saying that.
No,
No.
not at all.
Keep your perspective from the higher level, that it's going to go right by you.
Yeah.
They said, if you want to drop down literally into the 3D, drop yourself back down into the
Yes.
3D for only a week, they said, just a week. And you'll understand there is a lot of chaos and people are
Lot of
suffering.
crud.
People are in pain. People are losing it.
Mhm.
And I said, no, thank you. I don't really care to do that. I'm good.
Yeah, I worked hard to get to where I am.
Yeah,
yeah, don't go
grateful
back.
for it.
So this reminds me that as we get these predictions or timeline things, we can put them out to you and everybody's on their own journey. So some of it may not seem correct or accurate, but that might be because your perspective is higher already.
Good
Yeah.
point.
So I have to keep remembering that because I'm looking for these milestones in the physicality to say, okay, they were right
Uh-huh.
about this, they were right about that, and I may not see them. So I'm telling you that we are on the same timeline, that if you are feeling that it's chaotic,
Mhm.
it is going to be a chaotic year. but it's supposed to start to taper off towards summer and into September.
Yeah. It's not that we're sitting there just going, no, you're not experiencing reality. It's just, we're not experiencing.
Oh, well, everybody's going to experience a different reality.
Yeah. So playing into that, for whatever reason on Instagram, I had this woman pop up, not anyone I was following. And, her thing is something, it's not exactly this, but say something or whatever. And, she's just really down on the spiritual community, like trying to point out false gurus and things like that, which, hey, I am all for, because there's a lot of, just don't point at me. No, I'm kidding. No, but there, a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was one post that she did about, she got really snarky about people's usage of love and light.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
And I had actually done a different podcast
So
on
she's
that.
triggered by people saying love and light.
And so here was the interesting thing, is that all of these people underneath her, they start yelling about it. And, like talking about, what blew my mind was, we didn't talk about this in another podcast, did we?
I don't think so.
Okay. There were these people who were like, she was fomenting this hate. And and so not a tribe I want to be a part of, but I just glanced down because I want to know where people are coming from. And, I was reading this stuff about people talking about, individuals like us who are experiencing a different sort of reality, that, that she's saying you're privileged, that there is real pain going on in the world. And she was talking about a lot about what was these different comments about what's going on in the Middle East, and, and that we have the luxury of not being aware, and, kind of like we're come from a moneyed position, and that we're like sticking our head in the sand and not, paying attention because we're living in this golden, reality
Of
and
love and light.
Yeah. And, and we say all the time, we talk about discernment, and we talk about where you want to put your focus.
Right.
It's a choice, and you have to work very diligently in the beginning, and then it becomes habit to move out of the space of all of that negative BS. Because and I used to say to people that, my mother would be like, well, you need to, know who to vote for, and you have to vote, and we won that right for you, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, you won me the right to have the choice to vote.
Right.
First off. And, I didn't come into this world to play the political game.
Mhm.
I'm not here to spend all my time studying who's the best to run the country and stuff. So my focus is somewhere completely, it's about shining light wherever I go, it's kind of, which it's bringing people up, and that's just a natural inclination of mine.
Yeah.
So I just found that really interesting.
It is interesting. And it brings up 2 points. The first one is everybody has their trigger.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, that's her trigger. And we have to, when we are triggered, we have to go within and say, hey, what is it about that? What is it about this idea of people saying love and light that's bothering me? Why is it bothering me?
Or God. Like when you're
Correct.
like,
I know why. And
Yeah.
it's just something that I work over, jump over. But, and it isn't also the second point. It isn't to say that those of us who are divesting our energy from all of that nonsense on the 3D does not mean that we are without struggle.
Or
at all.
we don't care what's going on.
Correct.
I mean, we do care what's going on.
Yes.
But at least for myself, I can support some sort of change easier, not being in the minutia pile with everybody else, but having an approach of a higher consciousness aspect of it, and understanding that there's greater change actually taking place. And unfortunately, again, my opinion, some of this is actually necessary in order to get to where we need to be.
Mhm.
So it's, everybody has their own, and it is their own perspective, their own, look on things, their own life. They have
And their
to
own
live.
purpose for being here.
And for those who are struggling with this particular thing about how best to get through this chaos, Matt Kahn, and I think he's on the up and up. I think he's fantastic, but I just don't.
Yeah, I don't gel with him
listen to
either.
him
He
for whatever reason, but he is good. I think he's good for a lot of people. But I did happen to watch a 30-minute excerpt from a longer, maybe New Year type of thing that he did. And it was a beautiful way to understand that while you're watching that, to remind yourself that we are ascending and that this is a part of ascension.
Yeah.
It is a natural, unfortunately, a mandatory, a necessary piece of ascension. And to remind yourself that this is how we're going to get to where we need to go. We have to get through that. So if you're struggling with that, do look at him, Matt Con, on YouTube. But
He's the one that introduced me to the Ho'oponopono thing.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that just happened to come about after a horrible misunderstanding with two friends of mine.
Mhm.
And I remember, had I not known that phrase and said it over and over again, like a
Mhm.
mantra, I would not have, like, I don't know how I would have made it through it
Really?
because I
Wow.
was so hurt, and it just,
Wow.
that's how I came across him. And then I started to watch some of his other stuff, and he's too touchy feely for me. Like I can't,
Matt, yeah,
it gets a little
yeah.
too deep for me. But
Right.
he is a beautiful, tender soul.
Yes,
It's
he
just
is.
too much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But if you are struggling and you are like this woman and you want to lash out because people aren't paying enough attention, or you feel like,
I
they're
think
not
she
taking,
got burned by a guru, like,
Or
like
they're
by
not-
one too many gurus.
Could be.
that happens. And unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
going to happen more and more because the truth is coming out. And so these people
Discernment,
who are not
discernment.
operating in the light are going to be
Yes.
discovered.
Yep.
But if you're struggling with that, and like she wanted to lash out at people who weren't taking it seriously of all the chaos that's going, ask yourself, how can I best serve in light of that? Is it to go over there and serve in the Peace Corps or something? Well, then do that. Is
If
it,
that's what resonates within
Yeah.
you.
Right.
or is it to sit in your space and emanate the most love that you can? Because we
Mhm.
know that it reverberates out into the world. We're all connected. So they're going to feel it, not consciously, but they're going to know in their soul, they're going to feel these prayers.
Yeah.
And so how is it that you can help instead of lashing out? And then you created, like you said, she created this downstream of other people who are now going to lash out about that and take that on
Mhm.
as, oh yeah, you're right. This love and light is BS. And now there's all this negative energy, and she's doing the opposite of what she wants us to do.
Yeah. Well,
Ultimately what the goal is, right?
Right,
yeah, she feels
right.
jaded by
Yeah.
it. And one bad mentor, like,
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
guru,
yeah.
whatever.
We've been there. We've
And-
been there and done that.
Well, and the way that I describe it is that you sit there and you listen to their teachings and they convince you, because you're not using your discernment, that, blue is not really blue, it's green. And so you buy into the fact that no, it's green. And you then go around fervently telling everyone, blue is actually green.
Yeah.
And then, and you live by this, and you have relationships that suffer. And then when that guru, mentor, whatever, when they fall off their pedestal, all of a
Then
sudden
you're left with,
you are left with these like, oh my God,
How to put
I've
the
bought
pieces all
into
back
this.
together.
And now I look like a fool. I look like an idiot. My belief is shattered.
Mhm.
And from there, all of the lashing comes out. But you guys have been there. I've been there. And I think that I was taken through a series of those experiences to keep understanding that there is no guru. There
Right.
is no mentor. There's the next
you
person who's
are
going
the
to,
guru,
yeah.
right?
You are your own
guru.
guru.
And I was
Right.
thinking of something else as you were saying, you were describing very eloquently. What I'm going to put more succinctly for anyone that didn't quite get it is you can't solve the problem from inside the problem.
That's right. You can't. No, you can't.
It just, you have to once you pull yourself out of, like, if you just sit there and be all angsty and miserable, what is that energy going to do? Like, absolutely
Well,
get you
It
nowhere.
begets more of that same energy. Whether you're in the higher vibrational state, it's going to beget more higher vibrational state. If you
Mhm.
like through the channeling,
My
if you
my
decide-
higher self kicked my butt.
well,
and
if you
said,
decide to go down into the
Yeah,
3D and play it around in 3D, well, you're going to get more of that energy, and that way, that week might turn into 2 weeks, might turn into 3 weeks,
Oh,
because you just
no,
get
yeah.
immersed in it, and it
Yeah.
just begets itself.
So I want to just be really clear and honest, is that like, I devolve there. I go there. Like, I mean, I experience some of this stuff.
Sure.
It's not like I'm so aware now and I
No.
stay above it. No,
Right.
I am like, we're all co-creating, and there's different things that it's like, you would be walking like Jesus if you could handle all of it and do a beautiful job at it. But even he,
Mhm.
like supposedly had all these issues with dealing with this stuff. But you know, you can only handle as much as you can. And then
Right.
there's going to be a point at which you're overwhelmed and
Yeah.
you're living very 3D and very struggly and all that kind of stuff. It's just to recognize when you're doing it and to
Right.
choose a different vibration.
And it is the human struggle. That's why
Yep.
we're here. We're not here to avoid these types of issues, because that is how we grow. And that is why the chaos is here
Yeah.
on earth, because that is how humans
Yeah.
learn and grow.
It's like you know, okay. So I was listening in Allison's book, The Origin Story. I was listening. I like being able to say that. Okay. I was listening.
It's not out on
It's not on audiobook.
Audible or
Allison,
anything.
I have
mean,
found a way to rig it
yes.
so I can listen.
Yeah.
And you know, the Orions, shoot, I don't want to lose that train of thought. They were talking about how humans are here to, like, it's like we're conditioning the human animal,
Mhm.
the human organism to be able to take more and more of a higher, I don't know, vibration, space, whatever. And so we have to go through all of this contrast, all of these conflicting ideas, measuring them back and forth, and, you know, continually working towards
Reevaluating.
raising ourselves
Yeah.
up and stuff is the ultimate goal. That's the natural state of being. But it's a conditioning process.
And there is polarity. There's always going to be polarity on earth. And so
Mhm.
if you slide into the polarity that you don't like and it's not comfortable, then slide back over into the
Yep.
other side and hang out there for a
Slide to the
while.
left.
Correct.
Slide to the right.
Now we're on a cruise ship.
But what I was going to say about the collective and my higher self,
Oh.
when I channeled, and there was an issue a couple of years ago that I was
Oh, yeah.
really
Yep.
upset about because it involved my daughter. I was fit to be tied. I was justified in my anger. I went to the collective looking for help. And I said, but. And they said, if you want to wallow in that, that is your right. But
Mm.
you need to practice what you preach. And you know better.
Ooh.
You know better. I mean, they kick my butt. They always say it in a gentle way, in a nice way.
But it can
you know how you walk out of,
sting.
sometimes you walk out of your boss's office, you're like, did I just get an ass chewing? I think I just got my ass chewed, but you don't feel like it, right? Well, that's what happens.
Until, 20, 30
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
later, like,
No, they did that to me about abundance. So yes, I know. It was kicked me- and then I got to really experience the difference between not having things and what true abundance is, you know, and yeah. So yes.
But anyway, you can
Ass
wallow in it if you wish, and you can wallow in it as long as you wish.
Mhm.
But once it becomes uncomfortable and you're done, come back up into what you know,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. And you may wallow there for a while and it may
Yeah.
take a friend to pull you out of it or whatever, but you'll get there
There's
if you
reasons
just
for it. There's
yep.
reasons for it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this has been
love
this.
fun.
I was gonna say
This is our
I'm
fun.
gonna throw a curveball in here.
Uh-oh, okay.
So I'm looking at your list. She still has quite a
No,
few.
I want to save that. We can save
Oh,
that.
you want to save that?
We can save this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say we could do a long format. We could go
No,
run
we're
along.
good. We're good. I can save that. That's good material. I just had it in case.
All right.
In case we actually ran out of things to say.
So
Imagine
honestly,
that.
honestly, I'm gonna say I enjoy this type of just, I don't want to call it fragmented, but this stream of consciousness where it's just random things we talk about, and if it
Mhm.
does happen to go into a long format, one episode that's long formatted, so be it. I mean,
Well,
this is
somebody
fun.
somebody was commenting on our Amy Gillespie Doherty one, the
Mhm.
eye reading, and they loved that one, by the way. And
Yeah.
because I think we went with that one about an hour and 15
Yeah,
or hour
yeah,
and
yeah.
10, and they were like, you probably could have broken that up and kept talking
Oh,
into
yeah.
2 different episodes. So we might have to have her back
Oh,
again. or
we
whatever.
definitely. I almost said that. I almost said that in the comment, and then I'm like, that is not my call to put there.
Sure it is. No, I
But
mean,
it was love it.
Oh,
And she's a
you're
really
coming
good-
back. You're coming back if you're watching us. Amy.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
great speaker.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable.
No, I think that this was the original spirit of us getting together and
Yeah.
talking.
yeah.
And so
To
I
let
think
it
there's, it's just that it is really helpful when we bring in guests and other perspectives.
Yeah.
And it really does help when we do focus in on a particular topic
Yeah.
and really share with you guys how we feel, how we operate, how we've been on the other side of it and all that kind of stuff. Cause I think that is so much more real
Yeah.
than just sitting here going,
Droning on.
I'm the provider and I know everything, you
Right.
know?
Oh, no.
It's like, no, we've been on both sides of it and we've seen the sucky part of it and the good
Yep.
part. And
Yeah.
So before we close, why don't we share one thing that perhaps we were pleasantly surprised by this year, or something that you really enjoy about the podcast? Or what is it that was either surprising or overly enjoyable? I'll tell you, I knew it was going to be fun, but I didn't know it was going to be this much fun. I look forward to you coming up here and
Yeah.
taping these podcasts. And just because I know we're going to laugh, and we usually tape 3 and they're about an hour each, and
Yeah.
the time just flies.
Yeah.
So it's really like 4 to 5 hours.
But we laugh.
For me, it's
and
the whole
laugh
day.
and
Right.
laugh.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yeah.
it brings me so much joy, more joy than I thought it would, really.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to look over the last year of doing all this, because obviously I partake here in the conversations, but then the real work
He does the hard
begins.
work and
Right.
behind the scenes.
I
Yeah.
render them all, get them all ready, and I put them up on multiple
Mhm.
different platforms, do all that stuff. And what I didn't have an expectation of where this was going to go and how many viewers we were going to have.
Yeah,
And-
we were doing it regardless.
Right.
yeah,
We were
yeah.
going to do this regardless. And it was
Yeah.
only going to be on YouTube. And, and because of it's going on my channel as a podcast segment of my YouTube channel, there's already some audience members there that are going to look at it. So I figured, okay, we'll get some views. And I wanted to say thank you, because you've blown my socks off by how many people are actually, viewing the podcasts week after week, and the numbers
Mhm.
are going up much faster as far as how many views. That's kind of my matrix of how things are going. And just for from one week to the next, typically it takes a week to get to a certain number. In this last episode we had, it literally took less than 48 hours to get to that number that we had on the
Oh,
previous
wow.
show the previous week.
Mhm.
So it's growing.
Gaining
And-
momentum.
right. And then now that we're on Spotify and we're on Rumble and several other platforms, Apple and whatever, watching those numbers go up, because that's a whole different segment that I haven't had to do anything with other than to just put them up there, and
Mm.
people are organically finding them. And I thank you for watching and thank you for listening. And, please leave comments on those platforms as well.
Although I don't
and,
know, can
yeah,
we see them?
we
It's
can.
difficult to see them.
We
Our-
can, but
haven't been.
but those that are on those other platforms, if you do want to really interact, slide on over to the YouTube channel.
It's easier for us to engage. So if we're not
Mm-hmm.
engaging with you and you're commenting, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because I don't know how to do that easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little more challenging, but
Mm.
we do appreciate you.
Yep.
Anyway, we do appreciate you.
For sure.
So mine, I appreciate you
pressure.
guys too. I think what I've learned over the past year, because there's a lot of times when people say, well, can you do this? Do you know how to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I think just as human nature, I've undersold myself a lot. And it kind of, through these conversations, I've come to realize, oh my God, I actually kind of have, I know a lot. I have an
Yeah.
opinion. And through having the conversations and being open to them, it's also helped catch me more in the moment.
Mm.
And like I've always said, if you really want to learn how to do something, dive into it.
Mhm.
I really wanted to improve my gut health. So I dove into this company where I'm selling the products,
Mhm.
because then you get to know it. Then
Yep.
it becomes personal. Then it
Yep.
becomes, so doing this had me diving into it. It's not something where, oh, I'm doing readings for a while and then I go back into Muggle world and then I'm doing readings. It's constantly keeping me in that space.
Mhm.
And just, it just kind of blows my mind. So now I'm still a very random talker, thinker, whatever. I would like to think, if you I've heard people say, if you put someone up on a platform and you said, just talk about anything for 15 minutes, I would sit there and go, because I can't focus in
At
on
that
it.
moment.
But
yeah.
I've learned
Once you
through
get
this.
going.
Yeah.
Once you give me a topic, I actually know a lot of stuff about a lot of different
A lot of different
disciplines.
things. Yeah.
And I'm finding it so fascinating. You guys are watching the guests come on that we interview. And then half the time I'm interrupting our guests because I'm just blown by it and I get to ask them questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Yeah.
It is. It's fun. It's been a great year, and we're looking
Mhm.
forward to another fantastic year with lots of exciting guests. And again, reach out, keep commenting. And if there's something that you want to see, a topic you want us to address, that would be fantastic, because
Please.
it's difficult. it is difficult to
It-
come up with
it-
topics.
Yep. And
all
I'm,
the
I'm even
time.
going to throw it out there. If any of our viewers, any of our listeners that are out there have guests they would like to, that are in this space that
Mhm.
that you would like to see on the podcast, let us know, because we're always looking for interesting new guests.
I will say though, I do at least try to be intuitive with who we
Yes,
invite on.
yes.
So
Mhm.
we want you to share because
But
it
that doesn't
opens
mean-
our eyes, but
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean we're
That's
going to
right.
reach out, because we do check in with our internal guidance
Yep,
system
yep.
to determine who's great. And it might just be that they're good at a later time, perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then don't forget to look down in the show notes and 1 week
Oh,
for those
yeah.
discounts. So if you have been thinking about a session with us or a session with Samantha, now's your chance. Or tell your friends. They
Take
have 1
advantage of
week.
it, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And go ahead and pay with the link below, and then we can schedule it whenever. All right.
Yep.
Well, until next time, thanks for joining us on Out on a Limb podcast.
See you guys.